self-care, self-compassion, self-compassion practice, self-love, self-respect. I will treat myself with kindness, not judgment or doubt. It's Monday. It's Monday. It's Monday. And a lot of you have made the choice and checked the box and said Monday mornings is when we will go live. But I don't see anybody up and early and at it with me with this live. So what I'm going to do is treat it like a blog. And in this discussion, I'm going to talk to you about self-care, self-love, self-respect, having compassion for yourself, being kind to yourself, taking care of yourself, and not doubting yourself. Not sitting up judging yourself. You made a mistake. You've learned from it. You've written in your journal and you've talked about it. And you've noted what worked and what didn't work for you. And you're moving forward. And by moving forward, you're having that self-compassion, that self-love, that understanding from the universe of unconditional love. So I will treat myself with kindness, not judgment or doubt. That doubt is what I put on my bay leaf to let go of. You know how you just kind of sometimes, go with it, go with the flow. And not hang on so tight that, I don't want to make a mistake. That's what I was doing. Sometimes you just decided not to do it because you didn't want to make a mistake. So that was my number one. I will treat myself with kindness, not judgment or doubt. A strong commitment to shifting from harsh self-talk to supportive. And number two, I respect myself, gentle and compassionate with myself, just as I am with others. Emphasizing self-respect through softness rather than force. I deserve compassion unconditionally. No strings attached, you know what I'm saying? That's self-love and self-care, that I'm worthy. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to do nothing crazy to receive that love. It's inherent. I'm resourceful enough to find a solution. You're not stressing out or worrying about it. We're doing our intermittent fasting and early morning meditations, and that self-care and that self-love, that healing of taking care of ourselves first. So you're trusting your inner capacity and creativity, even when things feel stuck. You're treating yourself with kindness. You're not judging yourself. You're not doubting yourself. So trust in your inner capacity and creativity to find a solution. And then number 5, it's natural to feel. So you don't want to kick yourself sometimes for feeling a certain way about something. Process that. That's one of the reasons we have our journals. And some even have diaries in addition. And you can write down how you felt about it. Some people like to kind of see how they felt at the beginning of something and then write about it. And then after you've completed it, you can analyze yourself how you were able to complete something that you thought you doubted yourself. You thought you couldn't do it. And you were able to not only accomplish that goal, but successfully achieve a goal that has been stressing you out. It feels really good to finally complete a long-term goal that just seemed to just keep lingering on. I know for myself, I had all that stuff. I had storage rooms. I had 3 different storages, and I had one for each nonprofit. And I was able to get rid of all that stuff in those storage storage space that I had had for just over 10, 20 years. So for me, that was a huge goal. That was a huge accomplishment, to get rid of all that stuff and downsize. It made no sense for me to keep paying that amount of money for storing papers and documents and stuff that nobody would ever be wanting or looking at or need. It wasn't even furniture. It wasn't even useful stuff. It was documents from the nonprofit. So it took me a minute to look through it all, make sure I wasn't getting rid of something that may be useful down the road. You know what I'm saying? So it took a moment. It took me a while to get through all that stuff. So I know a lot of people I would have just thrown that away and been done with it within a day or two. It took me a while because I had a lot of family history and information in that too. And at the time when I was writing the book, I was keeping that stuff in case someone wanted to challenge, our family tree. I was really thinking along those lines. And I wanted to be able to pull out all my facts and information, just to, be able to hold my own, because most of them had passed. So back in the day, we would record them. I even had cassettes and so forth of our discussions and stuff. A lot of that stuff got damaged. Keeping that stuff in storage, I'm telling you, it does not hold very well. I even had some stuff wrapped, and it still only held, to a point. So a lot of it I just had to let go, and that's what I did. And it took a moment, even emotionally. I had to work through letting go a lot of that stuff. And one thing that I still have, of course, is my Aunt Sarah's Bible. There's still some things written in there, as far as the family and so forth, but it wasn't to the extent of our family tree and all that kind of stuff. I really let go of a lot of that. And like I said, it was merely being kept to be able to go back and show the sources and what I was talking about and so forth. So I paid a lot of money to keep those storages for years because they were old when I was young. And I knew most of them would not be around, 15, 20 years later. So I had decided that was the best way to kind of keep things. And they kept very well, especially being the one storage that I had in Arizona because of the dry weather. So those documents kept very well. And then I had the storage here in California, which was an indoor storage. So that one kept pretty well. I did have somebody bend the door trying to get in there, but there was nothing but papers. So it wasn't really a big deal. It was a downtown area. I made that one video that I told you guys about. I think it said 10 years, but it was longer than 10 years. But I was just making the point for the video. But I had that storage unit for over 10 years. I mean, it was a crazy amount of time and the amount that I paid for that storage unit through the years. So I'm not necessarily saying that it's a good thing or a negative thing that you should do the same. I'm just telling you my story and why I had chose to keep those storage units so I could keep my family heirlooms that we had, that I had accumulated from the family. And there was so much more, especially in that house down in Tucson on Naco Vista. I just couldn't carry all that stuff. And we had sold stuff and still had stuff. And that big old money jar, that was the first thing somebody snatched up. And so I just got to the point where after my mother passed and my aunt, I just really wanted to let go, and that was part of my process. So it took me years to go through all of that stuff that I had in storage. I never bothered to go get anything else from any of those houses or anything like that. I kind of let that go, especially once I realized that, they felt some kind of way about the homes. So Reverend Foley and Aunt Cat, that house, Reverend Foley's son said, you can stay there if you want. I didn't want to stay there by myself. At Sarah's house, Paul and them were supposed to inherit that. I don't think they wanted that. Don't know I think they just abandoned it. Mother's house, my brother said it was his, hung up the phone. And then the houses in California, my uncle sold one when he started his business way back in the day when I was young. Then the other house, I believe they had abandoned that one. There were still a couple of them left, different scenarios where they got tricked out of their homes, as they say. so many different events happen here in California, um, with those houses. And then the other, most recent, with me being handicapped, I just was not able to utilize the home with my disability, limited mobility. So it was a challenge. It has been a challenge ever since the pandemic and everything. But what I utilized that time for was to get rid of all that stuff that I had saved over the years. And it started out just getting rid of, stuff I was no longer using, and items that I did not need for my nonprofit, Ladies in Distress and Acela Urban Foundation. I no longer needed all those papers and stuff any longer. So I figured I would be saving money by downsizing, because at first the storage units used to be really cheap. And then as the demand where people could no longer pay rent and stuff, and they were using them more, and then you have students, and especially in that downtown area where I was located, it's right by the university, and then there was that car dealership right there. It's a prime area, and then it was close to the freeway. So at first it was just students and then nobody, so they were renting them really cheap. And then as time went on and life has changed, they went up on the price. So that little bitty space I had went up to like $100 and something for little closet size, and I was still paying, you know what I'm saying, regular. So when they had all that, I don't call it a riot, but I guess it was a riot. When they had all that take place, I was at the storage unit with the truck, empty it out, sitting in the truck trying to rest. And I didn't have much strength, and all that was going on around me. Fireworks, people shoot the gun in the air. I mean, it was wild, and this was downtown LA. And that's when I knew that I had gotten a little bit too comfortable with the craziness. and this is supposed to be about compassion. I'm getting off subject. So the point is self-care. That's what we're talking about Monday morning, is self-care. And we're getting down to the last week before we go into Black History Month. So Black History Month, I'll share a lot more of these stories with you, the family tree, and why I still prefer more of Black American than African American, solely because of the family tree and what they started off as and what they did not call themselves. So it has nothing to do with the disrespect of lineage to Africa or Africans or anything of that notion. It really has to do with my placement here in America. It has to do with somebody making space, respecting my sovereignty and my peace, and not think that they still have ownership of Negroes or Blacks or anything along those lines. I think, unfortunately, because of the historical events that have taken place in America, that respect lags, and sometimes the disrespect is even from someone else who is Black or African American. And so that's very unfortunate, because I would think that the focus is, at least in my bubble, is that you're doing self-care. You're taking care of yourself, and as you're respecting yourself, you're respecting others. You're treating others with compassion and with love. That's what this is about. So I've been putting up for you different videos, different discussions. And as I always tell you guys, if you want to speak further or you have any more questions about something, please note it below, and then we'll go into a deep dive. But currently, all it is something that you're working on yourself. And so I'll give you a little bit of something else to possibly focus on, or to balance, or to meditate on, or if there's something that you have a concern with, then we can work on it together. That is the point. So we left off on, we did the solution. You are resourceful enough to find solutions to whatever it may be that concerns you. You can research it, you can study it. Even for myself, trying to find the right adequate type of housing, find a solution to find handicap housing for my situation. I've been researching that and finding something. A lot of times they just want to throw you in general population and not necessarily something for that's adequate for your disability needs. And if you are disabled and you're in a general population, especially with those that have mental health issues, it can create a little bit of jealousy because they feel like you're getting a lot of attention. And those people don't quite comprehend the scenario. All they see is that you're constantly being aided and that you're getting what you want. And so in their minds, they respond differently. So that's why I wanted to have my own housing for my nonprofit and for the ladies. Anybody would be able to apply to stay there. But the theme and the theory is that it is black women who have been displaced, who need healing, and their situation, say they're 55 and up, not quite retired, not quite able to work a full-time something, and they need somewhere to live, they need somewhere to heal, whether they was in a hospital and they lost their housing. You know, there's always a scenario of situation. Sometimes they need to go back to school to get enough education for a particular position, to get a job. So I would have that set aside for those particular reasons. And this would be for single individual women. So that's what I'm desiring to develop, and I'll keep you posted as usual. The demand for me, though, is the self-care. And you can do that anywhere. You can do this wherever you stand. You can do your self-care, whether it's breath work, and you just take the time, whether it's start your day or in between during brunch, take the time to do your breath work. Take the time to visualize what you want to see in your life and the protection and the unconditional love. Take the time to do that. A lot of times we don't have, or we feel that we don't have the time to really be mindful in everything that we do and our desires in life. So make the time to visualize how you want your life to be. And it's natural to feel whatever kind of way that you're feeling. So you're being kind to yourself. You're being compassionate to yourself. You know, you're talking to yourself to inspire yourself and go over the winnings, you know, the things that you've done in life to help improve your situation. So you're not feeling stranded or helpless or what have you. You're taking your power back. And then we have, I'm safely provided for by the universe, life, my own resilience, a loving presence, divine support. So then you do your affirmations. I'm safely provided for the universe. I'm safely held and provided for by life. It invites a sense of security and surrender, knowing you're supported beyond just your own efforts. So believing in that higher power, believing that something loves you unconditionally, and believing in yourself to have the ability to achieve whatever goals that you set for yourself. So you will, number one, treat yourself with kindness and not be so judgmental and hard on yourself. So it is Monday. Much love and respect to all of you that have shown up today. I greatly appreciate you coming to the chat today. When I first started chatting, I didn't quite see anyone, so I just really went into this to leave this as up on my YouTube channel as a short clip. It looks like it's going to be like a 19-20 minute clip. So I don't see any questions, and once again, I just say I thank all of you, and I wish the best for all of you, and that you love on yourself, and by loving on yourself, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to love on someone else. You're balanced, you're healthy, you know, you're healed, you're working from different type of energy, and it makes a difference in your environment, in your community, and everything that you do. It shows when you're healed. It shows the love not only that you have for yourself, but for your others and in your community. You're grateful for what you have. So I love you guys very much. Every Monday we'll be going live instead of Sundays. That's what we're doing now. Only time we're going live on Sundays, and if it's something in particular that we need to talk about. But this is the day. This is how we're going to start our week. And if you have any questions about the intermittent fasting, please let me know. If there's something that you want to kind of work with on the self-love and self-care, let me know. Just leave it in the notes below and I'll get back with you. Chat with you later. Love you much. Have a wonderful week and we'll chat later.